on Facebook. So hello, everybody. My name is Joe Russo. I'm the CEO of the Palm Beach Tech Association. And we have a great little podcast we're going to be doing here today live on Facebook and then recorded for all of the great podcast locations, Spotify, Apple, Google. So if you have not tuned in before, this is the South Florida Tech Podcast. It's a weekly show where we bring you the awesome, innovative people building our South Florida tech community. Each week, we're introducing you to some of these the Sunshine State's top tech leaders, learning more about who they are and what they do, and having some fun conversation along the way. Our podcast is, of course, presented by the Palm Beach Tech Association, a nonprofit dedicated to building South Florida into a tech hub. I'm your host, Joe Russo, President and CEO of Palm Beach Tech. And we, of course, want to thank our sponsor for today's podcast, Sales Message, the Delray Beach startup founded by Chris Brisson. At a time when we really are not picking up our phones, text messages are getting a 99% open rate. And Sales Message's two-way texting platform gives everyone a simple dashboard to send, receive, manage text messages and conversations online and on the go. To learn more, go to salesmessage.com. Again, a great local South Florida tech startup and a really great founder. So thank you very much, Chris, for your support. That said, I want to introduce our guest for today, Michael Fowler. He is the Vice President of Information Technology at Florida Power and Light. He has a bachelor's degree in information systems from Johns Hopkins University. He previously held leadership roles at Constellation Energy and Accenture and has over 20 years of experience in the technology and energy industries. Currently, he leads one of the largest technology teams in South Florida, with over 1,000 people working in part with his leadership. And he's also been recognized for his transformational leadership style, passion for investing in the next generation, and in my opinion, also decubicling the tech offices there at FP&L. In addition to his role there, he is chair of the Palm Beach Tech Association, so it's the closest I have to a boss, in addition to leading the technical advisory committee for the Palm Beach County School District. He is a great contributor to the South Florida tech community and just overall a great guy. Michael, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hey, Joe, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
So, wait, our live stream ended, actually. One second. I don't know why this... We'll go put it on. We're still recording, so we'll just pick up where we left off.
Awesome.
Facebook is changing some of its stuff recently, and it's been kind of annoying, and I would guess this is one of the side effects of it. Okay, we're trying again. Let's see if it works this time. All right, so we are back here with Michael Fowler, the Vice President of Technology at FP&L. We just had some technical difficulties on the live stream, but we're really excited to get back with the podcast and talk a little bit about Michael and what he does at FP&L. So with that, let's dive right back in. Michael, tell us about who you are and what you do.
So my team works on the utility side of our business, so for our customers that live in South Florida. And so if you call our call center or you have your lights out and one of our trucks roll up to your house, my team supports all the technology that supports that. So mobile apps, our web presence, and our customer service functions.
So everything that I do when I pay my energy bill, that all
Yep.
comes through you.
Yep. It comes from my team. Yep.
So what does that look like from a day to day now that everybody's at home? I mean, you have a really great background, actually. I think that's your view when you're at work. But what is the FP&L technology team doing now that everyone's at home?
So we're 100% agile. The space you see behind me is virtual background, but that's a little bit of what our office looks like. And so many times our teams work in pods of 7 to 10 people, and that's all had to been converted to working from home. And so teams are now virtually collaborating. And in the agile world, we do our planning, what they call PI planning, planning increments. It usually encompasses, what we're going to do for the next quarter. Typically, that would have been in a very large conference room, and would have been sticky notes and people interacting, trying to figure out, what we were going to do for the next 3 months. We've converted all of that now virtually, and I think very successfully so. And so we're using technologies like we're using today, and I think IT was set up well to convert to that virtual world. We just hadn't done it prior to the COVID-19.
Yeah. So do you have, are you guys using Zoom, WebEx, all those tools as well as Teams?
We use WebEx. Yep, we use WebEx. We also use Microsoft Teams. So it really depends on the kind of meeting we're having. WebEx usually is for larger meetings where there's probably a little less collaboration, and Teams certainly at the local level where teams are actually collaborating on documents.
And you also have the two teams. You have one in Jupiter that you work with, and you also work with folks in Miami. So you're a little bit more attuned to that in your distributed workforce than that. But also, I don't think a lot of people realize Florida Power and Light also works with Gulf Power in Pensacola now as part of the NextEra Energy Company. How is all of that work between basically 3 different locations really prepared you, and what hurdles are you maybe still confronting with the many different people all about the state of Florida?
I think there are a lot of extroverts probably going through withdrawal right now, and so I think one the way I think about some of these virtual meetings is in some ways it levels the playing field. So we might have had meetings between offices that were virtual before. We'd have half the people in the room and half the people virtual. But I think once you convert to all virtual, it sort of levels the playing field for people to participate and interact. And so in some ways, I think the interaction's been better. And I think the other thing that's come out as a byproduct of this is I think people now can focus on their work. And I say that because they tune in or tune out virtually. And when they're tuned out, I think they're getting higher quality time for when they're actually doing the work that they're doing.
Yeah. Just so you know, the live video on Facebook cut out again. I'm not sure why, but I'm just gonna have to upload it after we finish.
Okay.
So going back to the conversation, you guys have built a team that really prioritizes next generation technology. I mean, not to play off the NextEra name at all, but a lot of people don't realize the type of work that you're putting in part because it works and we pay our bills and our electric stays on, and a lot of people don't notice it because it doesn't negatively affect them. And it's almost thankless, right? You pay your bill every month, you figure out, okay, well, I paid more this month than last month. A lot of people, I don't think, give you guys the credit. And I'm curious if you think about that, if the teams talk about that, and exactly how beneficial the work is.
I think, in part our work is never done, but I think culturally we put customer first. And what I mean by that is, as the world becomes more technology oriented, we're seeking ways for how can we interact with our customers more seamlessly. And many times there's technology behind how we do that. Sometimes that comes in the form of offering some of the services you've talked about. Sometimes it's behind the scenes stuff. And so, some of what we're doing with drones and being able to observe the network from a different angle more seamlessly usually translates into higher quality of service that we're able to provide. Um, the you know, we want frictionless, frictionless interaction with our customers, and I think technology enables that. And so I think our teams are always motivated to figure out how do you innovate the next use of technology to the benefit of the customer.
So now that you're at home working every day, I would assume your personal dynamic has changed. Before getting up, going to the office, and coming home, how have you been able to balance the change in lifestyle and your work from home aspect?
Yeah. So I've created a space in the house that I consider my workspace now, and it's separate and distinct from the rest of the house. And so when I come to this part of the house, that's my workspace, and I'm in work mode. And so I think to be able to create that boundary so that you're not working 24/7, or that it interferes with the other parts of your life, I think have been very important. The other thing I've been doing is personally working out twice a day. So I've been going for a 3-mile walk in the morning at sunrise, and then half an hour on the Peloton. And so I think that also helps to create some boundaries in a healthy way.
And do you think, I mean, is FPL Next Zero Energy kind of encouraging the same thing? Like, hey, stay safe, but stay active, all that?
Yeah, we quickly went into the mode of let's keep our employees safe, and where we can work from home. I think that was a good call. I think what you have to do with your teams is stay connected, and so there's no longer the water cooler conversations or meeting in the cafeteria, and so we've been encouraging people to have impromptu video conferences where they might not be talking about work. And so whether you call that a virtual happy hour or whether you call that a pop-up party, ways for people to interact with each other that may not necessarily be around work topics, in order to still stay personally connected with one another. And those have been fun. So it's a bring your crazy hat to the next meeting party, and that's added some fun as well.
Well, speak of, I know you're also getting out of the house and doing a lot of biking. And you're probably the most avid bicycler I know, from, noting your Facebook post, or I think it's like something crazy like bike 30 miles this Saturday. Have you been keeping up with that? And have you set any goals around your workouts with that?
I keep meaning to go add up the number of miles I've ridden lately. So it'll be interesting once I add them up. But it's one of the things I found, that you can socially distance and still get out and get some sunshine, and not be afraid of interacting too closely with people. Although you have to pedal fast sometimes in order to keep the appropriate distance.
So what's your record so far in the last few weeks of distance?
It's it. So true bikers will tell you it's not that impressive, but 50 in one day has been a recent trip.
So you did 50 miles.
Yep.
Geez.
Yeah, there are some bike rides in Florida where they'll do 100 in a day, but I'm and I've done those before, but it's getting a little warm out there.
Yeah, I think it was something like I went to one of the farms this weekend to buy some produce, and it was something like 88 degrees. Florida summer is creeping up on us pretty quick. When we're recording this, it's April 22nd right now. So whenever this goes to air, but it was funny because the same week it was actually snowing up north, and I think everyone's just not even realizing what the weather's actually like, because we're all inside. So when you go outside, it's like, oh wow, it's hot. That said, one of the other things I was interested to know, you're also really big into arts and culture, and I know we've talked about you going to Kravitz Center and appreciating art. Maybe dive into that for us, because that's an interesting part I really don't know too much about you with.
Yeah, so usually if I'm not working or riding my bike, I'm usually at some sort of performing arts or museum, which those folks have been hit hard by COVID, and a lot of the theaters have gone dark. And so I think when we hit these kinds of events, I think it's a great opportunity to innovate. And so I know some of the shows have switched to providing online presence for some of those performances. And so I think as time goes on, there's going to be more and more that we might be able to get differently than we got before. And so I'm looking forward to that because I miss it. Usually I'm at the Kravis locally here, probably 3 or 4 nights a week, as you probably see from the Facebook posts. And I tend to like the stuff that is maybe not necessarily mainstream. And so there's a couple of series. I know there's one called the Peak series, which focuses on dance. And some of the artists are local. And so I tend to do my part to try to support the local arts community.
Yeah. I know the Cultural Council just put out a really nice video the other day online of that they've been getting some people involved with, but they've obviously have to tack on to technology pretty quickly as well, which that actually brings me to the next topic. One of the things we talked a lot about is education, and you're also on the advisory committee for the Palm Beach County School District as far as technology goes, and they've had to pivot really quick into a fully technology-oriented education system. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, and just maybe education in general, the importance of us as a tech industry and a tech community really investing in education and STEM education at best.
And I'm trying to think if it was 3 years ago, the county, I think it was at the county level, we did a penny tax. And that penny tax went directly to the school district. And the way the school district invested that money was in modernizing the underlying technology infrastructure. And I think had we not done that, we would not have been prepared as we were to go into an event like this. And so I know that the school district is leveraging all of that investment that they made to enable the students to continue their school, which is awesome. I think it also reinforces that the next generation, I think the term they use is digital native. I think this kind of an event for them is going to make them even more digital than even our generation is today.
A lot of the work that we've worked together on over the past few years has really been around higher education as well. And obviously all the colleges are out right now. And I think worse than that, this summer was a lot of first internships for people. I'm not as far gone from college as you are, but an internship for me, when I was in school, really was defining. People have been canceling their internship programs. I know FP&L is trying to figure out something virtual, but maybe you could speak to the importance of internships that you've seen at FP&L and how you can maybe pivot to virtual internships.
I think it's a shame if anyone cancels their internships for the summer, because I think that now more than ever, especially within the IT realm, most of those internships could be done partially or all virtually, and it's invaluable to the students. It's the only way the students can build a resume to then be able to capture their first real job once they graduate. And our program has been growing and growing over the past few years. And it's a key way where we attract talent for the next generation. And so I don't have any problems running that program virtually. And I think we're still thinking about how we do that mechanically, but I'm confident that we can do that. And I think some of the stuff that we've done with Palm Beach Tech with doing hackathons, I think some of that stuff could be done virtually as well. There's no reason why we can't still interact with each other and do those kinds of activities.
Yeah, of course, it's always more fun, always better learning experience in person. But for a lot of people out there that might be listening, do you think that it's a make or break thing right now for them to say, well, there's no reason not to have an internship program? Obviously, it might be a little bit more weird being detached personally, but is there any reason for people to cancel programs if they have the tools to interact with them?
I think if they're if they are IT internship programs, especially around support, around application development, I think all of those jobs lend themselves well to being done virtually. And so I would challenge people to rethink why not? Because what you're really doing is you're giving a student an opportunity to work on a project. And I think as we've proven with our own agile methodologies, you can do most of that work from home. I think you're right. It does lose some things. There are opportunities you get as an intern to present your ideas, to present in front of large groups, and I think that's slightly different when you're doing it virtual. But I think all of that can still be achieved. And so I just I think I would ask people not to limit themselves with thinking it can't be done just because it can't be physical.
Yeah.
And part of it may be we just delay it a little bit, but I know the school year will quickly start in the fall, so you can't delay too long.
Yeah. So going on that, we talked a lot about education and talent over the years, and I know that's a really big sticking point for you. But what would you say inspires you to do the work that you do and wake up every day and have a pretty big job that is really important right now, especially? Like, what gets you going?
I think at the core of it, it's the final product of whatever we're working on. And so obviously as a critical service, we've got to continue working every day, providing power, providing the services that we provide, right? And so we're playing around with some cool new technologies for, how do you do temperature scanning? And that was not something that was on our radar beforehand. And that there's technology to do that. And I think that's the kind of stuff that will mature in this environment. But, whatever the problem may be, right, there's usually a cool end result that's very tangible. And usually it's to the customer's benefit. And so to me, while I come to work every day, we may not be launching something every day. I wait for the next launch. We recently launched a big solar program called Solar Together. And when we launched it, we had, thousands of people coming to the website to sign up for the program. And so we worked on that for many months, and but launch day came, and it's always gratifying when you see, people actually signing up and participating in the program successfully, and the website worked. It's always good when the website works.
Yeah, that's as simple as that sounds. That has not been going as well lately. That said, where do you see South Florida's place in the global tech community? We've put in a lot of effort to build a tech hub here in South Florida. Where do you think that we're going as far as building the South Florida tech community?
I'm still very optimistic that all this is somewhat short-lived, right? And our economy is tourism. Our economy is cruise ships, and all of that I think benefits from more technology. I saw that Disney was going to camera-based facial recognition instead of touch screens, because I think they were doing biometrics and fingerprints for people who bought tickets. And so I just think it's really cool in a time like this that you can pivot in new ways. And so I think there's a lot of technology going on here in South Florida. And so, we see it every day in Palm Beach Tech, that the number of companies that are investing in tech, or startups that are coming here in tech to support the industries that are here, I think is great. So I see it very positively.
Yeah. And going to leadership for a minute, you've done a lot in the few years I think you've been in Florida. A few years, I think it's something like 8 or 9 that you've been in Florida now. We've known each other for a while. What leadership advice would you be able to give to those folks who are out there and trying to build their career in the tech industry?
I think the first and foremost from a leadership perspective, you've got to give the teams time to innovate. And that looks differently depending on the work environment. Sometimes what we've done is between agile sprints or between PI sessions, we actually give teams time on their own to invest in what's your next creative idea. And to me, that's where some of the next generation tech comes from, is allowing people to do those proof of concepts and pilots, and actually get their hands on new technology. And so to me, it can't always be about what's the next deliverable, what's the next deliverable. And I don't know that people ever stop and pause to think about how do you let some of that stuff happen organically. And so I know you and I partnered on the local hackathons. I think that's yet another way that you let people create and be innovative. And so whether you're doing an internal hackathon or an external hackathon, I think those things are really super important.
Anything, speak of hackathons, the first thing I think we're gonna plan once we get all back to normal here. That's been a good tradition for us. What's one thing you're gonna do after all this is over? I know you're kind of a traveler, so I would maybe pose the question: where are you going after all this?
Yeah, so my ski trip got canceled. That was the first thing that got canceled. The trip to Venice got canceled. My trip to New York got canceled. So I'm hoping for 4th of July that the trip to Zanzibar off the coast of Africa will still happen, but that's sort of hit or miss at the moment. We'll see if that happens.
Are you trying to knock off every single country?
Well, I don't know that I'll live long enough to get to every single country, but I'm doing my best. There are some really tiny ones and odd places in the corners of the world that are hard to get to, but I'm doing my best.
Well, I think you got to find a reason to get to Nauru. It's the smallest country in the world. It's just off the coast of Australia. Their primary exports are coconuts. If you can get the smallest out of the way, then it all just seems a little bit easier from there.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's right. That's right.
So with that, last question, what's your call to action for the South Florida tech community?
I would say, well, we've all been on pause, right? We've all been physically distancing. I would encourage us not to socially distance. I think the better word is physically distance. And I would say, don't let time get away from you. I think people have been at home. People have been hunkering down, and I think the opening will be slow. And I would hope that we would continue to find ways to keep pace with the stuff that we have to get done, and then some. I know we've talked a little bit about that here with virtual things, but I'm serious about that in saying that we've got to do that. Otherwise, we'll wake up and we'll have missed a whole year, and I'd hate to see that. I'd hate to see that happen. And I think there's going to be a ton of stuff that happens post this. I think the wearables. I think we've just scratched the surface with wearable technology. I think some of that stuff, people are going to find new creative ways to leverage some of that. And so I think some people have a hard time figuring out how far away 6 feet is, but maybe your wearable could tell you, and what kind of applications could come out of those kinds of things.
Yeah. And I just keep on getting hit up with different notifications now about how people are looking at doing those tracking apps, either it be through Google and Apple, which is scary as it is interesting. But there's, I think, a lot of good that technology comes out of this for. So
I think that'll be a game changer, because I think that goes beyond COVID, being able to control things like this in the future.
Yeah. That said, thank you for keeping the lights on. There are, I think, a lot of things that you guys do, from just making payments easier to making sure that the power plants have cybersecurity that is next generation. You guys do a lot of good work. I don't think it's always appreciated because it just works and it doesn't break. There are so many technologies out there that break that shouldn't, and your guys' technology always works. So thank you so much, and thank you for volunteering your time with Palm Beach Tech and being a good colleague and friend. Um, of course, if you guys want to learn more about Palm Beach Tech and want to be more engaged with me and Michael, you can join at palmbeachtech.org. You can click the join now button. You also see the podcasts are on top of the website. And wanted to give a shout out to our producing sponsor, Media Ops. They are a company that focuses on global media for technical communities. They're based in Boca Raton. They have brands such as DevOps.com, Security Boulevard, Container Journal, and focus on a lot of content around those specific verticals in technology. So do check them out. Big thanks to Alan and the team down there, Brian, for producing the podcast. And thank you so much to Michael for being on here with us today.
And thanks for the virtual career expo today, Joe. I think it's those kinds of things that are going to make a difference in the future.
Yeah, well, 700 people and counting. So
That's
hopefully,
awesome.
hopefully we get some good folks, some good jobs. So
That's awesome.
enjoy the rest of your day, Michael. Thank you.
All right. See ya.